I'm Beverly Welch of the Arbor Gate in Tomball, Texas. I'm here today with our dear friend Angela Chandler, and we're going to talk to you about a very important subject, compost. Compost is, as every gardener knows, so essential in our organic gardening, but it poses a lot of problems. It can take too much room, HOAs, varmints, and what exactly do we compost?
Exactly.
Time, turning, so much involved. So Angela has brought to us an ancient, actually, method called Bokashi from Japan. Is that right, Angela?
That's correct. This is actually sort of a modern version or a rediscovered version of a technique that Japanese farmers have been used for centuries.
That's wonderful. And all we need are these two green buckets.
This is it. Isn't
I
that
love
great?
it. Unbelievable.
No piles, no turning, no complaints from neighbors. And
No odor.
And no odor, and definitely no varmints.
Yeah.
And this can be done inside in the comfort of your own kitchen or utility room, even into your garage, so that you don't have any of the weather issues either.
Oh, that's
it's a great,
perfect.
great way to go.
Perfect. So, in 10 words or less.
We'll try.
So, we're going to start. Explain to me briefly the method. We're going to start obviously with one bucket at a time.
We are.
Okay.
Okay. The system really is based on having this one bucket.
Okay.
And it's an anaerobic system. So we want a lid that snaps on tightly.
All right.
But we also want to be able to remove it easily because we need to recharge this once a day when we're through cleaning our kitchen for the evening. So we have these easy snap lids that are much easier to take on and off than the traditional paint bucket style lid that you see.
And it has to be a special bucket, a food grade bucket.
It does.
Is
It
that
has
correct?
to be food grade
Okay.
plastic because everything we're going to do here is from the kitchen back to the garden. So
Okay.
we're in that perfect cycle of garden to kitchen and back to the garden again.
All right. So how do I get started? What do I put at the bottom of my bucket?
So easy. Okay, since we're going to be dealing with food waste,
Okay.
we know that food waste is about 80, sometimes 90% water, depending on the food. So we have to understand that while we're in this process, that water is going to be releasing from our food waste and down into the bottom of the bucket. So we have to address drainage first of all.
Okay.
Some people like to be able to drain off that liquid on a regular basis. We want to be able to use these beautiful bacteria in this process. So when we do drain the liquid off, it's bacteria rich and it has some really good uses in the garden. So we want to address that first. We can do it a couple of ways. One, a tap can be put on the bucket, and we do want to locate that tap very low on the bucket so that we have as much drainage as possible towards the bottom. A second way that can be dealt with is expanded shale.
Okay.
And this is the method I've come to prefer because expanded shale, we all know it's
The beauties of it,
so
yes.
many wonderful uses for gardeners. And one of the good things about it is that it is so porous and it will hold so many more times its own weight in liquid. So if we put 2 or 3 inches of this expanded shale in the bottom of our bucket, not only will it draw up all of that liquid from the Bokashi, we can also then have that very bacteria inoculated, rich, wonderful expanded shale to go in our gardens when our Bokashi is cured.
Perfect.
So the basic process is we're going to put 2 or 3 inches of the expanded shale in the bottom.
Right.
And then we're just going to start layering food. Well, we're going to start then with the Bokashi itself. And Bokashi grains are a substrate that is very carbohydrate rich. In this case, we're using a rice bran.
Okay.
So it's a byproduct of the rice industry right here in Texas. And then this is inoculated with food for the bacteria and then with the bacteria themselves.
Okay.
And then this is fermented.
So this is basically your starter,
That
your
is the
activator.
starter. That is the activator.
And you have to have it.
You have to have it.
Okay.
And you can sort of think of this as like a sourdough starter because it works basically the same way. So we're going to put a handful or 2 of that on top of our expanded shale.
Right.
Then we're going to layer in food waste. And people always ask me, oh my gosh, how do you collect your food waste? And most of us already have a compost bucket sitting beside the kitchen sink.
Right.
But if you don't, a real easy way to do it is just in a Ziploc bag.
Okay.
So
Easy.
after every meal, your food waste can go into that Ziploc bag. Then that way you don't have any problems with, in your own kitchen.
Right.
And then that gets layered in the top. And after that, we're going to put another little sprinkle of Bokashi on top of that.
Sort of a lasagna
It
method.
is a
You
lasagna
just
method.
layer until the
Yes,
bucket's full.
That's right.
All right.
And then we're going to snap the lid on, and when we do, we want to make sure that it's snapped on tight all the way around so that there's no air here, because these bacteria need that air-free or anaerobic environment in order to grow. Then what's going to happen in this bucket is that instead of the food basically decomposing,
Right.
it's going to ferment, just like we make sauerkraut or fermented veggies for our health purposes. And it's going to change. So you're going to see things like that crisp cucumber that has the beautiful dark green skin and the very white flesh is going to turn sort of translucent, basically the same way it does when you pickle it to eat. So this is going to be fermenting, and every time you open it and add a layer, you have more product fermenting. At the end of that, we're going to let this rest and continue to ferment for about 2 weeks.
That's all?
And then it's ready. That's it, 2 weeks.
So like with a typical compost pile, you're looking at 6 months to a year or more.
At months, yes. And a lot of labor and, you know, some space involved.
Yeah.
And here we just have the bucket. We're going to set this one aside and let it ferment for 2 weeks. And while that's fermenting, we're going to take our second bucket and start filling it too. So always, every 2 weeks, you're going to have a bucket going to the garden and a bucket going to ferment, and a bucket going to the garden and a bucket to ferment. So it's a really nice, easy way to handle it in just these 2 5-gallon bucket sizes.
Well, and I noticed here you put the typical food scraps that people think of to use your greens and lettuce, so forth. But I also notice here that you have some bones.
That's right. You can put things in here that you can't put in a traditional compost pile. So bones can go in here. Now they're not going to ferment and decompose quickly like your veggies do, but they are people forget that bones are very porous.
Yes.
So they're also going to soak up all that wonderful bacteria so that when you do put them into your garden, it's sort of like charging that garden with the good nutrients that are in the bones plus the beneficial bacteria from the Bokashi. It's pretty amazing.
It is amazing. It's so fast, it's so easy, it's so space saving, so time saving. Now we do have these kits available here at our brigade. Your buckets with your inoculant.
With the inoculant, that's right.
Perfect, perfect.
And just for another side on that, we could almost label this Bokashi kitty kashi or chick kashi as well. Because there are other good things that it can do for your household. One of them is that you can put this in your kitty litters and it will help neutralize the ammonia and some of the odors from the kitty litters.
Wonderful.
So it keeps the house fresher. And you can also sprinkle this on the bottom of your chicken coop, either right on the ground itself or on the ground before you put any bedding or deep litter method that you might be using. And it's all food grade. Everything here is food grade.
That's wonderful.
So that if the chickens do peck at it, no problem at all for them.
That's wonderful. So the instructions come with the bucket.
Instructions with the bucket.
Complete kit available.
Yes.
Instructions on the website.
Yes.
And then we got this video.
Oh, we do have this video, and it's going to be so much fun. I really think everybody's going to find that this is a great way to recycle food waste that we haven't been able to traditionally do before and get those nutrients back into your garden.
Thank you so much, Angela.
Thank you, Beverly.